Wizards Postgame Live.
Fiserv Forum in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Kristaps Porzingis, unfortunately, obviously unhappy with the final result. 123 to 113 is the final score. Unicorn gave you 22 points, 9 boards. Kuzma gave you 20 and 4. Daniel Gafford gave you his 4th double-double of the season with 11 points and 12 rebounds, again, albeit in a 10-point loss, thus snapping the win streak for your Washington Wizards. That was 5 previous to tonight. Now that makes 1, again, a loss to the Bucks. But Jason, we'll see them later on in the season. Before we bring everybody in, I want your assessment on where did this one not go right?
Well, it was 2 different teams that you played. You had Milwaukee without Giannis, then you had Milwaukee with Giannis.
Sure.
Completely different things out there. I think with him, he was attacking the basket. He was getting whatever he wanted. Obviously, with 55 points, he was doing damage out there. And that's completely different what you saw from the 2 nights before is no Giannis. They were chucking up a whole bunch of threes. They were struggling on the offensive end. You take 55 points out of the equation, that's where it went wrong. Now, conversely, with the Wizards, you had Bradley Beal come back. Kind of looked a little bit rusty out there, and then you saw him go out. He had some left hamstring soreness yet again. That's something that you're going to have to monitor, and if he's feeling okay, give him another game because those hamstrings are very tricky to deal with. Then you have a Daniel Gafford issue of him going out there, hurt his elbow. He had a double-double, but at what cost? You want to keep guys physically able to go out there and play, and I think that it was just a rough game for him.
It indeed was. I mean, you talk about the 55 from Giannis, that's kind of like the obvious elephant in the room. But when you look at the rest of the box score, you see a lot of things that are matched up. Rebounds, they only had 3 more. Assists were tied up there. Now, the block situation, one guy has 6 blocks. I mean, what can you really do about that? But so many different things that you're like, there's an opportunity here, an opportunity there. That third quarter, 36 points in the third quarter. I'm trying to find out why we couldn't be able to extend that a little bit further.
Well, that's the thing about the Wizards. You've been struggling on the third quarter. This time, they did a great job in the third quarter. Now, you have to kind of go out there and replicate that for the other 3 quarters, but with Giannis out there, with Brook Lopez out there, the great mindset was that they were going to attack Brook Lopez in the pick and roll, and they did that. In the first quarter, he had 2 fouls. He had to go sit down. Have a steady diet of that. And then in the second quarter, when Giannis goes to sit on the bench, they were attacking the rim even more and taking advantage of the fact that they didn't have much offensive production. They were getting to the rim. They were getting good shot quality. Have to take advantage of those and increase a lead, if not get a lead, when Giannis is sitting on the bench, when Brook Lopez is sitting on the bench. Yeah. They didn't do that, and I don't think they created enough pad or didn't quite get there.
Because it's a game of runs. You know, you expect anything, you know, the ebb and flow of the game. But one of the things we have to acknowledge is Bradley Beal going down. He played the first 13 minutes of the game, and then he left with left hamstring soreness again. So obviously, we'll keep you updated regarding his status as we move forward. But we would be remiss if we did not say that that was a huge impact in the trajectory of this game, would we not?
Oh, absolutely, because you expect Bradley Beal to go out there and get to the rim and get to the basket, get to the free throw line. He looked a little bit hesitant. He looked a little bit lethargic out there. And when you go out there and you're trying to nurse a hamstring injury, you want to go full bore, but you just can't for fear of going out there and re-injuring it. Obviously, he's not feeling right. He had the right hamstring that turned into the left hamstring from overusage. That's just something you're going to have to deal with throughout the season because hamstrings don't just heal like that. You have to go out there and make sure you maintain an even level of play because I think he came out there, and when you try to hit the ground going 100 miles an hour, this is what happens. You deal with those injuries. You deal with kind of going back and forth, playing, not playing, playing.
Yeah,
that's where you got to really be careful with those hamstring injuries.
Well, we'll be monitoring it as we normally do, so you can check all of our social and, of course, at NBCSportsWashington.com to find out the latest in Bradley Beal's status. But I want to bring in Chris Miller and Drew Gooden from the game. Guys, again, a great call, but unfortunately not a win for the Wizards, snapping that win streak that we've been on. Drew, I'm coming to you first. Obviously, Giannis's performance is special. It is what it is. But looking at the Wizards side of things, where do you think they could have made some course corrections and possibly created a win?
Early in the game, they've had some success not doubling guys. We've seen centers and bigs score 40-plus points, and Wizards still coming out with a chance to win the game, just like tonight. But it was some possessions where they just didn't show a wall. They weren't picking up Giannis early enough before half court. It was too late. I mean, by the time Giannis took his third, fourth dribble, it was just too much speed, too much force going towards the rim with guys backpedaling. Nobody took any type of momentum meeting Giannis with force. I'll keep talking about Grant Williams from the Boston Celtics. If you want to see a guy probably guarded Giannis the best in his career, I think one of the best defenders that I've seen guard Giannis, and Grant Williams, watch how he guards Giannis. He's never backing up. He's sliding his feet. He's sticking his chest out, and he's meeting force with force. That did not happen tonight.
This Wizards team was only down 5 with 5 minutes to go, and the best player maybe on the planet, some would argue, closed this game out. That's kind of the reality of this. But I think when you look in the fourth quarter and the Wizards' inability to make threes, for me, that was it really, guys. Is obviously Giannis was Giannis tonight, but their ability not to score down the stretch when they needed three-pointers was really the key for me.
Giannis scores 40 points, you still win this ball game.
Indeed. And so looking at the lessons that we have to learn from tonight, most in particular the big men in the paint, I'm looking at Gaff and Porzingis together. What lesson do they have to learn from this tonight, Drew?
I mean, it's not too many times you're going to see a guy like Giannis any given night attacking with that much force. But I just think it just comes from you're going to see them again. You're going to see them one more time again. 2 more times, excuse me. And you're going to be – you want to get this game back. You stole one in here when he wasn't playing. He came back and took over tonight. But the next time you play Giannis, it has to be picking him up early before he gets a full hit of steam. I didn't see that one time tonight. He was playing freely with the ball. You have to stop him in his tracks, and I know it's a lot easier said than done. But listen, the fact is he had 55 points. You lost by 10. If he would have had 40, you win this ball game.
You know, and the Wizards also attacked the paint, guys. You know, 72 paint points. You know, when they played Milwaukee in the first game on Sunday, he had 60. Milwaukee had 68. So you can get into Milwaukee's paint. The key is you got to stop Giannis from going downhill, as the big fella said.
Indeed, some valuable lessons learned. Chris and Drew, we appreciate it as always. 2 days off. We'll see you in Oklahoma City to take on the Thunder on Friday, gentlemen. We always appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, guys. You know what, Sticks? You've played for both franchises, so you have familiarity between the two. When you look at the style of play that Giannis employs, and you look at what the Wizards want to do defensively, and it kind of goes back to the question that I was asking on Chris and Drew about how do you defend a guy like that? Because you're going to see him twice more this season, but he's not the only other big that you have to deal with. There's an Embiid in the league. You still got a Rudy Gobert. Like those type of players, what can the Wizards do to deny paint access to the bigger, more dominant fives in this league?
Well,
fives or
this
big
is
guys,
the problem that Giannis promotes, is that he is a guy who goes out there and he has extremely good ball handling, and he comes at you 100 miles an hour going downhill, and he has this Euro step that's so hanky-janky that you can't time it up to try and go and block his shot. And if you are up there, he has such big hands that he will put it down on your head and put you on a poster so easily that it's not even funny. So to kind of counteract Drew's point of you need to get up past the three-point line, it's so difficult because if he gets past that first line of defense, you're looking at guards trying to go up there and contest him. And any guard in the league is not going to sit up there at the rim with Giannis because you're going to get put on a poster over and over and over. And even when you do set back, he has such good footwork and pivots that he's going around the defense. He's smart enough to not take charges majority of the time. Now, if you build that wall and try and get that crowd and take away driving lanes, that's where he gives it up to the other guys that are shooting threes. You have to have multiple efforts. Stop his dribble penetration, but then also get back out to those three-point shooters. This is why Milwaukee's so dangerous out there.
Indeed, this was a challenge tonight. I want to bring in Megan McPeak and get her thoughts on this as well because, you know, we've played some really strong teams and we've played some quote-unquote lesser teams over these past few games. Tonight was a real challenge against a strong team with one of the strongest players in the league. What lesson do you see they can learn from tonight, Megan?
I think this game was a measuring stick, in all honesty, because you play them the other night. They don't have Drew Holiday. They don't have Chris Middleton. And they don't have Giannis. So you, as Kristaps Porzingis told me this morning at shoot-around, in this league, you need some luck on your side. And as of late, they have had some luck on their side. And tonight, luck, unfortunately, was not on their side. And I think when you look at the shooting, as Chris and Drew were talking about to you both, the three-point shooting, when it's not falling, it sometimes is not going to be a very pretty basketball game. And unfortunately, tonight was the night that the threes were not falling. And I felt like because of the offense not falling as efficient as it had been during this 5-game winning streak prior to tonight, it looked like they kind of got frustrated by that and a little bit, you know, I don't think if down on themselves is the right word, but it's the only word that's coming to mind right now. And you could kind of see that, especially on the defensive end. But you have to give credit to this Milwaukee Bucks team and what they have, as Sticks was saying, this is a very strong team. They are a very dangerous team. And I also want to point out, too, with Giannis, everybody talks about the fact that he doesn't have that three-point shot. But I was texting back and forth with you guys during the game, and if he can add that three-point shot, he's going to be an even bigger problem. But the one thing I'm most impressed by with him is similar to what I'm impressed by about Kyle Kuzma in his ability to now facilitate. There was a few passes tonight where he had wraparound passes when he got 10 toes in the paint and he was basically at the cup, and instead of going up with 3 defenders on him, he wrapped it around those 3 defenders and found his teammate. I'm very impressed with the way that he has now figured out how to read defenses when he is attacking the paint in motion and finding somebody that is open. That's what I've been very impressed by this season from Giannis and over the course of the last couple seasons. But when it comes to the Wizards, I think it was just a night that the shot was not falling, and unfortunately, Lady Luck ran out tonight.
And you know what? That you say all that stuff on the offensive end of the basketball, we're forgetting about the fact that he was a defensive player of the year.
Yeah.
He's not afraid to play defense, and I think Kyle Kuzma got to go against that. Porzingis got to go against that. He makes things difficult on the offensive end for you because of his length, because of his athleticism, and he's not afraid to stay in front and play without fouling. We can talk night and day about his offense. I mean, 55 points, that speaks for itself. But on the defensive end of the basketball, you saw there late in the game, he got a steal from Porzingis, took it full court, and laid it up over Monte Morris. That is something that is super special about this guy.
Indeed. Now, I'm just looking at some of the stats on our side. You mentioned Porzingis, 22 points for him, 9 boards, almost had another double-double.
Yeah.
2 for 5 from deep, doing the work on the other side. We're going to get into the conversation about that, and Rui Hachimura, who also knocked down 3 for 3 from deep. But that's not the only thing, including a conversation with head coach Wes Unseld Jr. from the post-game podium. More post-game breakdown on NBC Sports Washington. Welcome back to Post-Game Live. Final score for Milwaukee, 123 to 113. Giannis goes off for 55 tonight. You got 3 Wizard scores in the starting lineup in double figures. But how do you defend Giannis? Here's head coach Wes Unseld Jr. in the post-game making that clear.
It's really difficult to do it. Obviously, there has to be just a little more urgency to get below the ball. He's got to see a wall, because it only takes him, 3, maybe 4 dribbles to go length of the floor. So, getting bodies below that, showing the crowd early, and take away those seams, tough to do in transition. But, that's the only way.
Given how lethal he is in transition, does it place an even greater emphasis on the quality of shots in the half court?
Yeah, to some degree, the quality of possessions, the turnovers. Had a handful early in the first half that really hurt us. Cut it down a little bit in the second half, but those turnovers, you couple that with the offensive rebounding piece was big for them tonight. Those are the ones you're going to have to minimize.
Any update on Beal?
Nothing yet. Same area. We'll just have to get it evaluated.
When you guys were able to kind of close and then you fell into those holes, obviously Giannis had a lot to do with kind of going on those runs, but what were you doing well to kind of get back when you were chipping away?
Oh, we were able to get stops. I thought that third quarter, we had a string of stops, and they had a couple of turnovers that helped us, but we were able to get out and play in the open floor, get downhill prior to them setting their defense. And they're a quality defensive team with their size, their length. They have switchability, so we don't want to play through the teeth of that possession after possession. When we were able to get stops, it was really good for us.
In that first stretch where I think it was they had a 15-point run to close the second quarter, Monte and Corey were on the floor. They put some bigger bodies out there, it looked like. Was it that kind of, Giannis had 7, I think, in that run too?
Right.
With that switch on defense where they were just a little bit bigger, they were kind of switching on to your guards?
Well, he had, I think that same stretch, he had 2 3-point plays off offensive rebounds. So it wasn't just, him going and playmaking. The second chance points, they come into play. You couple that with the turnovers in that first half, and, it stretched the deficit a bit.
What did you think of your team's shot selection, particularly the shot selection from Rui and Kyle tonight?
For the most part, they're not going to give you a lot of open threes. You're not going to do a whole lot of damage in the paint. We were able to get out in transition to get into the paint. We were able to get some offensive rebounds, second chance points, which was great. But in general, they do a really good job of packing the paint. Some of those mid-range shots that's what you're going to get. Obviously, that's not ideal, but we got to find ways to generate more threes. Take the threes that we turned down a couple. that you'd like to have back, but sometimes that's going to be the best look.
This was your guys' definitely, I think, most robust test of this starting lineup. I know we've asked you about it a ton, but just with that kind of the diversity of opponents you've seen now, do you still want to stick with it? What's your kind of big picture evaluation?
Yeah, I think it's been good, you know, and I think it's, you know, we gave ourselves a chance. Obviously, you get down 15. I think we cut it to one possession game, you know, in that third. So you battle back. You just have to find a level of consistency. You know, you gotta continue to chip away at some of those possessions, minimize some of the mistakes. I think it can change the game. But I like where we are right now. We've won 6 of 8. You know, we're competing at a high level, and I think it's been good for us.
The 15-0 stretch that Ava asked you about, how tough was it to find shots once Beal had to leave the game? Was there, I guess, an adjustment period that your team needed to kind of reset?
A little bit. I mean, I think it's a natural period that, you know, one of your marquee guys, you know, leaves in that fashion. There is a bit of a gap. You know, so it takes a little bit to recalibrate, but I don't think it was anything that, you know, insurmountable. I think it was just some of the execution, some of the turnovers, and to your point, some of the shot selection. You know, we got to dial in and do a better job with that.
Head coach Wes Unseld Jr. at the post-game podium. Megan, as he was talking, I was thinking about Kyle Kuzma tonight, putting up 20 points. It's his 19th game in the last 22 that he's put up 20 points or more. We know that during this 5-game win streak, he's been scoring an average of 20 points. Again, the number 20 keeps resounding in my mind. 2 assists and 2 blocks tonight. How do you grade his performance? And looking forward to OKC, how do you think this is going to take the next step?
In all honesty, I think you got to forget about this game and just move on to Oklahoma City, period. Like, you can't dwell on this. You look at the film as a coaching staff, you figure out what you can do better, what you can continue to do that was positive, and you prepare for Oklahoma City. You can't dwell on this Bucks loss. It is what it is. The game's done. You've got to move on. When I look at what Kyle Kuzma did tonight, bouncing back after that low-scoring triple-double, if you will, which is interesting to say. I thought that he was a lot more assertive offensively, but it's also tough to be assertive and be efficient when you're going up against a Brook Lopez, a Giannis Antetokounmpo, as Sticks mentioned, a former defensive player of the year. So I thought Kyle was a lot more assertive, wasn't as efficient as we're used to him seeing. We're used to seeing him, excuse me, but I thought that he tried to pick his spots as best as possible to what the defense was giving him. And at the end of the day, when Bradley Beal goes down and then you're wondering if he's going to come back, and then you find out he's not coming back, that then puts the onus and the load on KP and Kyle Kuzma, a position they've been in before. Unfortunately, also KP's in foul trouble, so you've got to do what you can do. But as I said, you lose the game, forget about it. Let's move on to the next one because it's an 82-game season. It's not a 1-game season.
As I say, it is a marathon. It's not a sprint, so calm is usually the thing that we all appreciate. Megan McPeak, we appreciate you as always. We'll see you on Friday in Oklahoma City. Enjoy yourself. In the meantime, on the other side, we're going to come back on PostGame Live. We've got the film room, and we're going to take a look at our best bets as well, so don't move. Welcome back to Wizards Post-Game Live. Special celebration today goes out to Denny Avdia, the youngster. 22 years old today, Jason Smith.
Gosh, I wish I was 22 again.
Man. Need both. Like, I'll definitely take a trip back in time for that one. Speaking of taking a trip back in time, let's look back at our bold predictions from earlier tonight, brought to you by Greenberg and Betterman. Tonight's prediction said Kyle Kuzma's PRA was going to be 35 or more. Well, we were just
PRA, what are we, baseball? No, points, rebounds, and assists. Come on, man.
You get to say it every time. Points, rebounds, and assists.
We didn't get it. That's all that matters. Bold prediction, not good tonight.
We got it wrong. Again, brought to you by our friends at Greenberg and Betterman, gblawyers.com, and feel better. Now, back to you. Denny Avdia's performance tonight. There was a time when he was having a three-pointer in so many games. I actually have it written down here. He had 10 straight games with it. But you see his performance tonight. 12 points off the bench. Not making the three-ball tonight. Still trying to find his groove again. It feels like he was a little off tonight.
Well, it's a little bit more difficult because you had Brook Lopez in there blocking pretty much anything in the block. Then you had Giannis doing his thing, but he was remaining aggressive. And I thought in transition, he had a dime of a pass to Daniel Gafford.
That was nice.
Oh, happy birthday to Denny right there. But You wish he would have gotten a win out there, but Denny overall, I mean, you go against the good teams, you got to learn how to go out there and be effective and make your presence known. I think he's still learning that as he goes on, but he's getting better. He's still attacking the rim. Shots may not fall every night, but he's remaining aggressive, and that's all you can ask of him.
Well, you mentioned learning, so what would be the #1 lesson learned for him tonight, I guess?
Well, you got to think. Brook Lopez is in there blocking shots. What can you do? If they're going to stay back and pick and rolls, you're going to have a float game like you wouldn't believe. Going out there, maybe shooting it high off of the glass, learning as the game goes, learn what it gives you. Don't try and force the issue because it's just going to lead in a block, go in the other direction. Go out there, make your presence known. If you're going to knock down a 3, shoot it with confidence. Go out there and make your presence known on your birthday. Wish you would have got a birthday win.
I know.
Didn't happen.
There was that sequence where he did throw that hoop, and I'm like, oh, and then he turned around and got the steal, and he said,
nice.
If he would have hit that 3.
Heat check.
But here's the thing about it. He gives you 4 rebounds. He gives you 3 assists. No blocks, but he does give you a steal as well. I like that he, like Kuzma, when one part of their game, the three-point shooting most in particular, is not working for them, they find other ways to get involved and stay engaged in the game. Now, looking forward to OKC, different set of matchups, but if you're going to give me this performance and this type of attitude and aggressiveness against one of the better teams in the NBA, you have to say this is a positive on an individual basis.
Oh, absolutely. And you go to the film room and you take a look at what you didn't do well, maybe on the defensive end. Maybe he got his hand in the cookie jar against Giannis a couple times, got some quick fouls, had to go sit down. But also, he's dealing with a different role that he's having to play. Early on in the season, he was starting. Now, he's trying to adjust to that bench role, coming off the bench. And Rui Hachimura is another player that we really didn't talk about yet. He kind of had a down night. He's had such a great role so far in these last 4 or 5 games, scoring 20-plus points. He had a little bit of a struggle tonight, too. So it wasn't just Denny or Rui. It was a whole team as collective. They kind of met up with this guy, Giannis.
Yeah, no, I mean, Giannis is one of those players. It's just so interesting because we had gotten so used to seeing some really wonderful numbers over this win streak.
Yeah.
That when a guy doesn't put up like 60% from the field, like, oh, he's having an off night. But it is what it is. As Megan said earlier, it is a marathon, and so we stride on. Left foot, right foot, moving on to OKC. Matter of fact, speaking of moving on, when we come back on the other side of the break, we're going to get into the film room talking about the unicorn. Yes, another footer talking about a footer. Jason Smith doing it on the other side. Make every moment more. If you were to come in tonight and said Chris Porzingis is going to make 2 or more threes, that's plus 164. Or if you would have said the unicorn is going to have 2 or more assists, that's plus 130. $10 bet would have won you $13 on the assist. And, of course, a $10 bet would have won you $16.40 on the threes made. But with that in mind, speaking of Kristaps Porzingis, how about we go into the film room and talk about the unicorn, Jason Smith?
I like that. This is a guy who can give you a multitude of different ways to score. He can score in the mid-range, the 3, and at the rim. But right here in the mid-range, this is a very difficult shot. Giannis Antetokounmpo is no slum on the defensive end. They make the lane crowded, so he does kind of a little half spin, fading away. That's a very, very difficult shot. That's one of those shots where you kind of just tip your hat, say, hey, you made it, good shot. But also, spacing the floor, Porzingis does a great job of that. Now, right here in this offensive possession, you see him kind of getting there. Brook Lopez is staying right there at the nail, playing great defense, but you gotta locate this guy as a shooter. He can shoot from behind the line and with range. Coach Budenholzer right there calls a timeout, is not pleased. This man's Eastern Conference Player of the Week. You gotta respect him from range, but also, if you're gonna put him out at the three-point line, also put him in pick and roll with Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal getting to the rim's one of the best at it in the league. Also, you got a nice little dump-off man with Porzingis, but also you got Giannis playing defense. Make sure you get to the rim quick, because if you don't, Giannis is going to send that thing flying. And I think that's really one thing that Porzingis is so dangerous. He has the ability to give you mid-range. He has a dangerous ability to shoot the 3, and not just toes on the line. He can shoot it 3, 4, 5 feet behind the line, and he can do pick-and-roll offense. So this, combined with Kuzma, combined with Bradley Beal when he's a good and healthy player out there, it's a very dangerous team, and that's why we're excited about this big 3 on the Wizards.
Jason, he gave you 22 points tonight, 9 boards, hit all of his free throws, 6 for 6, 2 for 5 from deep. Now, mind you, he leads the team in steals, picked up another one of those. Leads the team in double-doubles, almost picked another one of those. The reason I say all this is that he's the model of consistency for this team. How much of an asset is it to have a guy like that where you can almost blindly say, That's 22 points and 9 boards.
Well, the great thing about him is that he's even said it, is having him healthy. He feels good out there. He's playing well. He's going to give you that consistency night in and night out. He goes out there, and as long as his body is feeling good, he had gotten to the point where he felt a little bit heavy. He actually came into this season just a little bit lighter because he felt better out there. He can have that going out there for a long period of time and playing long existing minutes, but also it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. He knows that. He realizes that. And he's learned to take care of his body a lot better because the best Porzingis is the one who is available on a night-to-night basis.
What's the old adage? The best ability is availability. So we'll take that from the Unicorn. And speaking of him, he's actually in the post-game locker room right now, available and discussing Daniel Gafford. Take a listen.
Yeah, I think we've been playing, the way we start games, I think is better. Just having that presence of Gaff there too, blocking shots, making sure we don't lose the boards, and yeah, that especially defensive presence, and also the way he can rebound offensively too. So yeah, I think it's a lot of times why I love playing with him is a lot of times I go for the block, or he goes for the block, and then we're out of position for the rebound. But then we have each other's back in those situations, and that's big time. And I think we're trending in the right direction.
You got towers of power with those two big guys inside. Obviously, we'll keep you updated on the status of Gafford and that elbow, whatever it may be. But Sticks, when you look at the tandem of those two big guys, it's the first loss they've taken this season together as a tandem. So obviously there's some adjustments that need to be made. But then on the other side, we're like, but this is the Bucks, and they're one of the more dominant teams anyway. What lesson does this tandem learn tonight, taking their first loss as a starting pair? Well,
you're not going to see a Giannis coming at you with so much force, especially with Porzingis. He had to guard him. Daniel Gafford had to guard him a little bit. But also, Brook Lopez is no easy person to try and guard out there or box out by any means, because Daniel Gafford's probably given up maybe 20, 30, 40 pounds. But he's going out there. He's playing aggressive style of basketball. He's always sitting at the front of the rim and available. And when shots are missed, he's there. That's what you want from your big. If he's not going to get any plays run for him, that's what you have to do to go out there and survive.
And I'd love to have a broader conversation about this, and we'll probably do this on pregame on Friday. But have you noticed that Daniel Gafford is facing the rim a lot more? Every shot's not just a dunk.
It's crazy because he'll get the ball and he'll take a nice little dribble move, maybe an up and under, a nice little half spin. He's expanding his game. He's not just a lob threat.
I just love that this is a development that he's getting, but I think it's coming at the fact that you have Porzingis on the floor. So once the court gets stretched out a little bit, it's like, wait a second. I don't always have to tap my back to it and try to dunk on people.
He's got more space to operate.
Exactly. So looking forward to, like you said, since we're not going to see this type of team every night, and you got your OKCs, your New Orleans Pelicans coming up soon on the schedule, I think these two, especially Daniel Gafford, have a tremendous opportunity to dominate and expand their game.
And the crazy thing about it is that if you're going to put that kind of size out there, other teams have to adjust to you. You're not adjusting to other teams. And if it's going to be a good thing for you moving forward, it's obviously been a great thing. 5-game winning streak, you go out there, maybe you take a loss against a very good Milwaukee Bucks team, but overall, you've played great basketball with these two on the floor at the same time. They're making sure that they're getting the job done on the offensive end, on the defensive end, and getting out there and playing well together is showing you that they can do that. They can operate on the floor at the same time.
I love the adjustment Gafford had at the half. He only had 3 points, finishes with 11. He had 9 boards at the half. He ends up with 12. He continues to show ways to contribute to the game, and again, we'll keep you updated on that elbow. But if there was anything that you would advise or a wrinkle to his game that you would love to see him develop, what would it be?
I would say just stay out of foul trouble. The more you're available, that's literally kind of been the hindrance of him, is getting into foul trouble and not being available to play. Because when he's out there and he's setting good screens and he's rolling, he's sitting there at the front of the rim, that is the best version of Daniel Gafford that you're going to get. Now, if he's getting into foul trouble, he's getting frustrated, and he's having to sit on the bench, that's not good.
Yeah, like an old boxer, protect yourself at all time, except in this case, protecting yourself is staying out of foul trouble. So that's what we want. But I want to remind people right now, new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. So download the FanDuel app today and start making every moment more. And we've got more post-game for you here in a moment. Don't move, Wizards fans. Welcome back to Wizards post-game live. Final score from Milwaukee, 123-113. The Wizards take a loss to the Bucks, snapping their 5-game win streak. Kristaps Porzingis give you 22 and 9. Kyle Kuzma 20 and 4. Bradley Beal left the game early first half with a hamstring injury after playing the first 13 minutes of the game tonight. But again, that means next up for the Wizards is Oklahoma City. That'll be going down Friday night at 8 o'clock tip-off. So that means pregame live starts at 7:30 right here on NBC Sports Washington. Jason Smith, my friend, let's talk about this next matchup with the Thunder. So tonight they put up, and I'm going to say this as straightforward as I possibly can, 150 points.
$150.
They put up 150 points, final score 150-117 against Boston. So now that's without SGA.
Oh, no, that's not even just a little note. That's without SGA, the guy who beat you on a less second shot the last time you played the Wizards.
Put up 42 on us.
Yikes. This team wants to run and gun.
So how do we keep pace? What's the adjustment? Because more than likely, we're probably, if Daniel Gafford's healthy, we're going to have two big guys out there running in 4 and 5. How do we keep pace with a team that wants to run like that?
Go out there and put them in a ton of pick and rolls. If they want to switch 1 through 5, you have a small person on Porzingis. Got to utilize that matchup, because if you're going to go out there and get the job done and have a win at Oklahoma City, can't play into their mindset. They want to get out. They want to run and gun. Obviously, 150 points against the Boston Celtics is no laughing matter. This is a team that is a very talented, very young team, but they just want to run. They want to play very, very free. You have to muck it up. You have to play physical with them and then slow it down in that half-court offense. If you slow it down, they're going to get bored. They're going to make mistakes on the defensive end, and that's where you take advantage. But as soon as that ball goes through the hoop, get back. Get back in transition, set your defense.
Person who I would like to see some more good quality minutes out of, and I think he'll probably get it because of the absence of Brad. If Brad does not play, be Jordan Goodwin.
I knew you were going to go that route.
I'm like, hey,
I knew you were going to go that route. I don't fault you. I like it.
All right, we agree, man. I like being on one accord. Hopefully we can get it on that same page on Friday as we take on the Thunder. But as far as tonight is concerned, final score is 123-113. Wizards in a loss, but on behalf of our great crew and staff here at NBC Sports Washington, for Jason Smith, I'm Wes Hall. Have a safe night, and we will see you on Friday here on NBC Sports Washington.